Okay, we're looking at Sefer Ha-Aggadah, page 47. Now, this is a lot of midrashim surrounding the life of Moshe. Obviously, it's very intriguing. And here the midrash speaks about the encounter of Moshe with the daughters of Yitro. This is a strange encounter, but it goes, the daughters of Yitro, the Torah says that when he fled Mitzrayim, he got to Midian, and he sat by the well. And as he was sitting there, he saw the 7 daughters of Yitro, Jethro, Yitro, who was the Kohen of Midian, the priest of Midian, and they come to draw water for their flocks. And the shepherds come and drive them away, and they take the water. And then Moshe fights the shepherds and drives them away, and he himself gives water to the flocks of the daughters of Kohen Midian. So interesting story. First of all, it goes in line with many encounters in the Tanakh that happens around the water well. The water well is so like the water cooler of the modern office. This is where everything happens, all the information. You get to know people because everybody needs to get water. Everybody gets there. But unlike the water cooler, where usually people don't fight over, who's going to get the first cup, with the water wells it was different because there was a water well. The water wasn't exposed; it wasn't outside because they knew that it's going to become not potable. So they would just draw from the well what they needed, and they would put into the troughs, into the drinking basins, and they would drink from it. So it was very common for like happened here that a weaker person would come and fill up those basins, and then someone else would steal it from him, drive him away, and let his sheep drink from it without having to work hard to toil for drawing the water. That's why Abraham's servant, when he wants to find a test for the future wife of Yitzhak, he says, I want to see if there's someone who's willing to draw water not only for herself, but for me and for my camels. In any case, but the Torah goes in detail, and why is this story important? And eventually Moshe is going to marry one of these daughters of Yitro, Tzipporah, to be his wife, but we could have said Vayivrach Moshe, Vayavo el Kohen Midian, but he went there and he lived in his house. But it's important for us to know the story when we look at the pshat of the pasuk, to show us that Moshe had this character trait to stand up for the oppressed. He started in Egypt standing up for his brothers, and when he comes to the well, he doesn't know the girls, he doesn't know who these women are, he doesn't know their history, but right now in front of him he sees that they are being oppressed, that they are being robbed. He's one man, and he's facing a couple of shepherds, we don't know 2 or 3, how many shepherds, but more than one person, and he's able to fight them off. As we mentioned yesterday, he had this probably military training as part of the royal family. He fights them off and he drives them away, and he physically himself draws more water, and helps the women give water to their flocks. So it shows us his courage and his sense of justice, and that is an added element of why God chose him for this mission, because he had to have this sense of justice burning in him. The Midrash gives us some background of why were the daughters of Yitro driven away. The rabbis are dealing with a different question, and that is that we assume that the other people who drove them away were also Midianites, which is not necessarily so. Could be of another tribe. But what bothered the rabbi was this: if Yitro is the priest of Midian, that means that he's a person of high status. Usually, the Kohen is someone who's respected. How can the shepherds oppress his daughters? This is unfitting. That they always used to give. It should be the other way around. They should have come and say, "We will help you." How is it possible? So either we go with the interpretation that they were from a different tribe, a warring tribe, so they didn't care about that, or what the Midrash suggests, a different interpretation. But it starts with the different questions. שונא עבודה זרה, ונתן מנוס למשה אצל עובד עבודה זרה. Says God is not in favor of idolatry. We know that. Why did He turn the events in such a way that Moshe ended up living in the house of a pagan priest and marrying his daughter? It seems not inappropriate. So yeah, we could answer that Hashem didn't do that. Moshe did that. Moshe happened to run into them. But if you want to see, as the Midrash does, that God controls everything, they say God wanted Moshe to be there. So, how is this possible? אלא יתרו כומר לעבודה זרה היה, וראה שאין בה ממש, ובשר עליה. הרהר לעשות תשובה עד שלא בא משה. So they say, Yitro, yes, he's an ex-priest. When they say Kohen Midian, he used to be the Kohen, he used to be the pagan priest, but no more. Why? Because he ראה שאין בה ממש. He came Hatayadati. That's before the Hatayadati. What's that mean saying later on, when Ben Israel come out of Egypt, the Torah says, Vayishma Yitro Hoten Moshe. Yitro heard that this has happened, and he comes to Moshe and he says, Atayadati, now I know that God is the true God. So the rabbis say it didn't start then. He was already on a quest. He was looking for what is the right path, and he found it on his own. But not necessarily that he knew that the one God or that our God is the answer, but he felt that Avodah Zarah en ba mamash. So he belibo la'asot teshuvah. He was searching for that. Even before Moshe came. Uvasar aleh, basar b'tsamech, from the word boser, meaning he rejected it just like an unripe fruit. You cannot eat. He said, I cannot eat that. I cannot digest that, and I don't want it. קרא לבני עירו ואמר להם, עד עכשיו הייתי משמש אתכם, מעתה הזקן אני, בחרו לכם כומר אחר. Now they use the word כומר, a priest, like the way they use it in the in context with Christianity. But Yitro says, I'm too old to be your priest, I'm retiring. Find another person to do that. And Amad v'otziklet tashmisha avodah zara v'natan. I mean, he took all the tools of his trade, whatever was related to the paganism, idols, whatever it was, and he gave it to them. He says, no, you go ahead and open your own shul. Now you open your own pagan temple, whatever it is. I'm not involved anymore. Right? Amdu v'niduhu. They excommunicated him. How do they know? Whether they suspected that he's a heretic. How do they know that? Very simple. I mean, the Midrash doesn't say, but that might be the answer, right? That people don't retire from religious service in any religion, or it's like in most religions, people don't retire from that kind of a religious office until they die. Whether it's the chief rabbi or the Pope. I mean, the Pope Benedict who retired or quit. Everybody was surprised. People usually the popes continue with that role until they can't even talk, but they're still there.
Maybe
so for
something also.
All right. So for Yitro to come and say, I'm not interested, they understood that it's not about retiring, it's not about old age. He's rejecting Avodah Zarah. They're not happy with him. They excommunicated him. And what is the meaning of excommunication? Shelo yizdakek lo adam velo ya'asu lo melacha. That people will not work with him, not work for him, not talk to him. He becomes a pariah. Bikesh min haru'im li'ot lo et tzono velo kiblu. And that also explains how come the priest of Minyan, who is supposed to be someone of high status, has his own daughters taking care of his flocks instead of hired hands like the other shepherds. That's a very interesting. I mean, even though this is not corroborated in the story, but this is one of the interpretations that can have a strong logic to say that it's true. One way or another, Yitro was not part of the Midianite nation. Otherwise, he would have some kind of respect or defense from them. So then Moshe goes into the to live with the Yitro. He marries Zipporah. And
she was the eldest.
We don't know if she was the oldest. We don't know that. We just say Tzipporah, but the daughter of Yitro.
I would like to add something very important
to
the whole story. Where's the Ve'ayo?
Ve'ayo. And where is he? Right. They went home. Right, that's you're right.
No, but it's not the word Ve'ayo. Ve'ayo is very, very important because that was how to invite guests in your house. We learned it from Yitro. He opened,
Right. Where is it? Kiren lo ve'yochal lechem. That's interesting, right? When you look at the pasuk, the daughters of Yitro, they had this and they came back. They went back home, right? They were lucky that this man saved them, and it seemed like it was a pattern because their father says, "Well, how come you came back so fast?" Meaning that usually they wouldn't come back home fast because they would have to fight with the shepherds and maybe would be pushed to be the last one. So very reminiscent of what happens with Yaakov. Yaakov also sort of fights for, he is the one who serves Rahel, but it's a different context. And they say, he asked, why did you come so fast? And they said, Ish Mitzri, Hitzilanu miyad haroim. They looked at him. He looks like an Egyptian royalty. And he says, Ve'ayo, kiren lo ve'yochal lechem. He says, someone saved you, someone fought for you, and you just walk away. This is not hospitality. Right? It's a very interesting message. So he comes there. Vayoel Moshe shevet et ha'ish. Moshe agreed to sit to live with Yitro, and he becomes his son-in-law, and then he becomes the shepherd. Moshe hayawar etzon Yitro. So this also adds to that. Before that, the girls had to do it. Now that Moshe is there, Moshe is taking that burden. Moshe hayawar etzon. Here we have a beautiful midrash. ומשה היה רועה את צאן יתרו חותנו ויבוא עדר האלוהים חורבה. When Hashem decides that he wants to talk to Moshe and appoint him to the job of chief redeemer of Bnei Israel from Mitzrayim, right? He wants me to go there. Hashem, as we know, reveals himself to him through the burning bush. And Hashem could have spoken to him anywhere. But he wants to see if Moshe still has the spark, the curiosity. Meaning that that's the pshat, before we get to the Midrash. Moshe told himself that he's not interested in Mitzrayim anymore, he's not interested in saving Bnei Israel. When Hashem wants, let Hashem do it. If that was true, he would not go to the burning bush. Because he shuts himself from the world, he's just doing this very narrow tunnel vision of me and my flock, that's it. But he sees the bush and he says, Asura na lirot, madua iv'ar, like what is going on with the sinner? The moment you have curiosity, Hashem knows you're still there, you still care about the world. And this is later on, the Torah teaches us, Vayakish alecha bincha mahar lemor mazot. When your son asks you, what is the story of the Exodus? What has happened? This is the most important thing in Jewish tradition. And I think our survival is that we are always taught to be curious and to ask a question. And that's why Hazal included in the Ha-Aggadah, one of the categories of the children is Zeshenu de'alishol ad petahlo. If you have a child who doesn't know how to ask a question, you have to encourage him, to create this incentive for him to be interested. So this is what happens with Moshe. But how does he get to Har Eloi Horeva? It seems like he just wanders with the flock, but the Midrash says differently. Behano HaKadosh Baruch Hu leMoshe batzon. Hashem tested Moshe to see if he's a good shepherd. Because the shepherd is, throughout the Tanakh, the symbol of a leader is a shepherd, whether for good or bad. Like the Nevi'im would say, Haru'im Hara'im, the bad shepherds who destroyed my people. So Hashem wants to see what kind of a shepherd is Moshe. Amru Rabotenu, כשהיה משה רבנו רועה צאנו של יתרו במדבר, ברח ממנו גדי ורץ אחריו עד שהגיע לחסות. So when he was with the flock in the desert, a kid, a young goat, ran away, and Moshe was chasing it to try to retrieve it until he got to a little crevice of the rock, and he pushes himself inside. וכיוון שהגיע לחסות נזדמנה לו בריכה של מים ועמד הגדי לשתות. So once it got to this crevice, he probably smelled the water, felt the water, and he went there because it was thirsty. כיוון שהגיע משה אצלו, אמר, אני לא הייתי יודע שרץ היית מפני צמא, עייף אתה. Moshe said, like he speaks to the young goat, he says, I didn't know that you were running away. I thought you were running away from the flock. It's like talking to him. But now I understand that you were thirsty and you needed water, and now you must be exhausted from the way. So he carried the goat on his shoulder and took it back to the flock. And I think there are famous depictions of Moshe Rabbeinu with the goat or a lamb on his shoulder. אמר לו הקדוש ברוך הוא, יש לך רחמים לנהוג צונו של בשר ודם כך, חייך אתה תראה צאן ישראל. It's a beautiful midrash. Hashem says, now that I see that you care so much for your animals and they are tzono shel basar v'dam. It's twofold. One is caring for the animals. Second is the responsibility you show towards your son-in-law, your father-in-law, Yitro. You care so much for his flock. You are the responsible person. You are the one that I can appoint to be the leader and the shepherd for Am Yisrael. This midrash tells us like why was Moshe chosen. All these things add. The midrash adds to what we saw already in the pshat. That Moshe had this kind of this sense of responsibility, of justice, and caring for others that we have to aspire for.